All right, it is 12:02. We'll call the meeting of the CROG Policy Board to order. For purposes of today's meeting, I'd like to pass the chair to Mayor Lesser. I think it'll be easier to facilitate our guest who's in person. So without objection, I'm going to turn the chair over to Mayor Lesser.
Thank you, Jason. Good afternoon, everybody, and happy opening day for you baseball fans. The Yankees start today and Red Sox and Mets tomorrow, and it's a nice sign of spring, which I know we're all excited about spring. But I'd like to start the meeting by asking for a moment of silence of Dave Kilbon, a longtime First Selectman and Policy Board member from East Granby. Dave firmly believed in a bipartisan approach to governance and was a passionate supporter of CROG and of regional solutions. So I ask for a moment of silence. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is public comment. Do we have anybody from the public today who would like to make a comment? Going once, going twice. Anybody from the public? Okay, moving on. The next item on the agenda is the approval of minutes from the February 25th, 2026 meeting. Do I have a motion?
I don't think we have quorum yet with the
Oh,
request.
sorry.
We've got one or two, so.
So
County.
presentations. Okay, so the next item agenda is to call on Matt Hart, our director, for the purpose of introduction of one of our presentation speakers.
Thank you, Mayor, and good afternoon, everyone. It's great to have so many folks here in person as well as online. So today's meeting, we're very pleased. We're going to be featuring two presentations, and then hopefully you all can stay on. We've got a few action items to take care of today as well. So our first presentation, very pleased to welcome Superintendent Jordan Grossman, who leads the Canton Public Schools. And Dr. Grossman has been the chair of our Capital Region Pre-K through 12 Emergency Planning Committee for several years. They do a lot of great work here in the region. Superintendent Grossman is going to chat a little bit about their work, their activities, and then I'm also going to recognize Cheryl Assis, our Director of Public Safety and Homeland Security, to add a few comments as well. Dr. Grossman, the floor is yours, sir. Welcome.
Super. Thank you so much. I'm sorry that I'm not there in person. When Cheryl reached out a few months ago, my calendar was really tight on this day, and I thought it was going to be virtual, so I apologize up front that I'm not there. But I see so many people online and so many people actually that I know in that room that is there with the camera going, and some of the towns, if not all the towns, have participated in this group that I titled this slide a 20-year model of regional collaboration in school safety, the Capital Region Pre-K through 12 emergency group. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Jordan Grossman. I'm the superintendent for the Canton Public Schools. I've been the superintendent here for 3 years. I see the town manager from Granby online. I was the superintendent at Granby for about 3.5 years. And prior to that, I was the assistant superintendent and administrator in Canton, where I am now. And one of the passions that I've always had is school safety and security. And if we could just hit the next slide. You know, for me, the defining moment, I'll never forget where I was on April 20th, 1999. I was actually in Mexico, and the Columbine High School tragedy happened. And for me, and I believe for our country at large, it really reshaped the school safety nationwide. It really exposed critical gaps in coordination and response. Next slide. And what Columbine revealed is that there was a lack of unified emergency protocols, limited coordination between responding agencies, community challenges during crisis response, and schools and first responders often operating in silos that I could truthfully say some of the lessons that were learned in Columbine certainly would not happen today. Next one. So the lasting lesson is preparedness requires more than individual plans. It's not good enough for the Canton Public Schools to have their own plan or the Manchester Public Schools to have their own plan. There needs to be shared protocols, and relationships are essential, and trust must be built before a crisis occurs. An effective response depends on acting as one system. And what I can truly share when I start talking about the work that we've done for over 20 years in the Capital Region is that there isn't a time that myself as a superintendent or some of your security officers that you may have, police officers, or your chief of police, that they can't reach out to another school district in the Capital Region and really work with one another on finding solutions to problems that one may have or resources that one may need. Next slide, please. So why does this collaboration matter? There's no single agency that can ensure safety alone. There's real-time response, depends on prior relationships. Alignment across schools, law enforcement, and municipalities is critical. And this is the work that our group has been doing for over 20 years. Next slide. Next slide, please. So what I've really thought about when we started this Capital Region, and Cheryl was one of the few that were in the room, about 20 years ago, if not more, I was approached by Bruce Lockwood. Some of you know Bruce. He was actively involved in CROG. And he asked me if I would kind of bring administrators together from around the Capital Region to really talk about school safety. So I reached out to a few of my colleagues that I knew at the time. They all have since retired. Dave Irwin, he was a superintendent at the time in the school district. Alan Beitman was a superintendent at the time. And myself and Bruce, we actually started these meetings with about 5 or 6 people in a room at St. Joe's to really talk about University of St. Joe's. It was St. Joe's College at that time, to really talk about the reality of school safety and how can we work collaboratively within the Capital Region that we weren't, as I mentioned, working in silo. And to my wildest dreams, because it's such an important and passionate subject among us, school safety, was starting with 5 at that time at St. Joe's College, and then moving to 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. There could be sometimes now we have meetings that could approach to 65 to 75 people on average coming to our meetings, which I always say at every meeting that we have, and how I've remained the chair for 20 years, I'm not really sure. And it's just something that when we meet, people are really looking at the complexity of safety, looking at threats, physical, digital, behavior. I can tell you 20 years ago, we weren't really talking about digital threats and things that were happening with online threats. Those weren't things, and there's need for rapid, coordinated decision-making, greater public expectations for preparedness, and the importance of unified communication during crises. There's a few things that have happened in the Capital Region in the past month regarding school safety, and what I always try to make sure is to reach out to those groups or those school districts that are in need of some assistance, and we're all doing that. And there's a lot of schools that have and districts that have a lot more resources than per se. I know you mentioned East Granby, for example. They may not have the same resources that a Manchester has or an East Hartford has. And what enables us to all be in a room, and we meet 4 times a year, is that we know each other, and it just keeps on building and building. If we could go to the next slide. So it revolves around a stronger, faster emergency response when we're working together, align protocols and expectations, improve communication across agencies, collective learning from shared experiences, increase confidence among staff, students, and communities. As you all know, within the roles that you may have as town officials, is that part of the responsibility that many of you have is signing off on your school emergency and your district emergency plan that is required by the state. And Cheryl could correct me if I'm wrong, what I'm most proud of in our region, in Region 3, is that we're often the first region that has all our plans submitted on time, appropriately done. Bill Turley, who is an active component in working with our region, we always stressed at all our meetings that it was so important to make sure that those plans are done, and they're done with thought, and they're done with transparency in the best interest of your school community. Next, please. So what we have is over 20 years of working with this group. It started, as I said, with 4 individuals at the University of St. Joseph's. Now it's a regional model with 60 plus active participants. There's been plenty of times that I've been asked to go speak to other regions to talk about what we do in the capital region and how can they emulate it. And for me, my simple answer, it's not hard. People just have to be passionate about the work, and they need to be supportive of the work and supportive of one another. And us as leaders have to be able to support our security people, our administrators, our business managers, our school facilities, people to attend these meetings quarterly. And that's how you build this collaboration. It's a model throughout the state. And I would say there's people that are also looking at what the capital region and the state of Connecticut is doing nationally. Next slide, please. So we have superintendents, district leaders, principals, school administrators, police, SROs, emergency responders, emergency management professionals, operation and business leaders. It's just an amazing group of individuals, and it's quite ironic that tomorrow at 1 o'clock we'll be meeting in the West Hartford Town Hall. So we've gone from the University of St. Joseph's, where we outgrew that. Then we went to Manchester High School, and we outgrew that. And now we meet in the town hall in West Hartford. And I'm pretty promising that we'll have around 50 or 60 individuals there tomorrow. And I would invite anyone in this room that if you would like to attend it in person tomorrow, you're more than welcome to come. Please just let Cheryl know, and we'll put you on the list. Next slide, please. What's the purpose? To strengthen school safety across the region, foster collaboration before crises occur, share real-world practices and lessons learned, which I'm going to talk about in a minute, and build trust across agencies and systems. Next slide. We meet quarterly. They're consistent, expert-led presentations, case study, and an open dialogue and network. What we don't do is I don't bring in any vendors to speak to this group. We're not looking for a sales pitch of different products that are out there. Schools can do that on their own. And then we ask the experts in the room or experts that we bring in if they have any recommendations on what they're using. So, for example, I'll take the Raptor system, which is a visitor management system, which I know many of you heard of, or if you've been in the school, you might have used it. We're not having the company come in, but if there's a school district that is using Raptor, they may speak about the effectiveness of the Raptor system and how it's helped their school. So in turn, a school that doesn't have it may be able to go to another school that does have that product and really investigate it within our own region rather than bringing in vendors. nothing wrong with vendors, but that's not what this group is doing. Next slide, please. Some of the key topics, you know, and Cheryl may back me up on this, she may not. I'm not an expert in school safety. I know school safety. I have a passion for school safety, but there's a lot of people out there that really specialize in different aspects of what is happening across our globe. And what we try to do is bring in at every meeting a speaker to spend about 45 minutes to educate us on what's going on across the country. So we've had school-based incidents across the country. So we did an action review of one of the previous shootings in another part of the country, in the West Hartford PD and the West Hartford security team. They came in and did an action review of the lessons learned from there and really spoke to the Capital Region about what was learned and what we can do moving forward. Behavioral threat assessments. So we've had FBI come in and talk about behavioral threat assessments on what we should look for in students and adults that may bring some sort of threat to our schools or our community. And we have a very good, I can't say I have a very good relationship with FBI, but there's members of the Capital Region that have relationship with the FBI, and we brought in agents from the FBI. We've had speakers talk about cybersecurity and digital threats. Last year, we had a speaker come in, which really, they focused it on children with human trafficking awareness. And there were a lot of people in the room that really did not know much about human trafficking. So it was really good to understand that. Crisis communication strategies. We learned from one another that there was an incident that happened at one of the West Hartford public schools, and it's public, so I know I could share, that we learned from one another about things that went really well with communication and lessons that they learned regarding communication that they need to improve upon. And then we share with one another, and we had speaker on reunification and emergency response planning. That is one of the big items that is happening right now within the Capital Region. And some of you may have heard the name Kim Myers, who works for the WestCon security group that just started up a few years ago with state funding from the governor. And Kim Myers attends every Region 3 meeting, Capital Region that we have, and she is responsible for our region. So I'm pretty confident she's probably been in a lot of your school districts and working with your schools. And one of the expertise that she provides is reunification and emergency response planning. And what I could share is, like, this is a big topic within my district right now that our team is working with Kim on reunification and emergency response planning. And I don't know if they're in the room, but I know that the town of Suffield and East Granby really were working on their reunification last year, or if not the year before. Next slide, please. This is a big one that we always have on our agendas, an open forum. And a lot of people would say that that may be one of the best parts of our meetings. It's because districts share real incidences with transparency. And there have been times that we've had meetings and Cheryl could chime in anytime. There are real live incidents going on at the moment that we are in our meetings, and that has happened. And it's one of those things that just seeing people go into action in real time, it's just something that we can't emulate it without talking with one another. We actually invited a school district and a town in from one of our neighboring outside of the Hartford region with the East Hampton Public Schools, and they had an incident last year, and their superintendent and their police chief and their administrative team came in and they spoke about the real life incident that happened in that town where they had to lock down their schools and lock down streets, and just hearing from the chief of police and the lessons that they learned and the superintendent, that there's nothing more valuable than learning from one another. And it really focuses on decision making and response and highlight the strengths and the gaps and promote a culture of continuous improvement. So to see that people even outside our region are attending our meetings and supporting one another, it shows that true collaboration that this group has across the capital region and across the state. Next slide, please. Some clear key takeaways is clear communication. Protocols are critical. Define roles, improve response effectiveness. Regular drills build readiness. Strong partnerships accelerate response. What also has really assisted us is that the state really looks at us as a model of what we're doing in the capital region, that I actually have a seat on the statewide committee that is looking at school safety and security, looking at plans. So we actually have a pretty strong voice at the state level that I bring back to the capital region. And we just have a tremendous partnership also with Demis. Demis comes to our meetings also. The school safety security group comes to our meetings, and we always get an update from Region 3. So I would say that you, as if most of you are town or elected officials, if you're not getting an update from someone from your school district or your town on what's happening in Region 3 with emergency management, I'm sharing with you that we are getting 4 times a year, we're getting an update from Region 3. Next slide, please. So it improved the preparedness across school districts, stronger interagency coordination. I know that based upon what we did in our capital region meeting, our chief of police, Chris Arciero, who some of you may know, and a former, I believe, commander in the state police, he actually ran a session last year that made it regional for police to come in on school safety and security, and they had some training led by, I believe it was Demis. Faster and more, actually it was led by, I think, somebody at CROG, actually. Faster, more aligned crisis response, shared tools, resources, and strategies. So it's just another tool of people coming together, and the police departments across our region actually probably have had this in a longer state than we've had. I believe it's called, somebody nod when I say this, I believe it's called the Blue Plan. Is it called the Blue Plan? Will somebody nod, Cheryl?
Yes.
Yep, thank you. They have it. And now we as a school district are almost emulating that Blue Plan and coming together and being there for one another. Next slide, please. Why this motto matters: it's proactive rather than reactive. It's scalable across regions and across our state, and it builds trust before emergencies occur, enhances safety for all students and staff. The region knows that if there's any questions or any concerns, number one, they know they can go to the Region 3 coordinator. Number two, they know they can go to CROG. Number three, they know that they can email me and we can disseminate information out or find them answers to questions. And the most important thing, it enhances safety for all our staff and students. I often say that our most precious resource are our children. So we need to work together for our children, and that's why this model works. Next slide. In closing, school safety is a shared responsibility. It's collaboration is the foundation of preparedness, and this model could be replicated statewide. And I'm just thankful that CROG supports our work in doing this, and that people and you as town leaders are supporting your staff and your school district staff attending our meetings on a quarterly basis. Cheryl gets my emails once a month or once a quarter, so she can always email this out to you. There's a sign up so we know who's coming to our meetings. It's been truly rewarding to lead this group over 20 years with fidelity, and it just keeps on growing. And the faces at the table may change, but the mission hasn't changed. So that's my slide deck that we have. We can exit off of that, and I'd be more than happy to answer any questions or they may have. I know it's not as personal when there's like 20 of you in the room and 20 of you online, but I'm here to answer any questions that you have. And Cheryl, thank you so much for asking me to speak today.
Thank you so much, Dr. Grossman. There's no more important issue than protecting our school children. I think we'd all agree on that. Greatly appreciate your leadership here for many years. I'd like to recognize Cheryl. She has a few comments she'd like to add, then we'll open it up for Q&A.
Sure, and thank you so much, Dr. Grossman. It's hard to believe I've been with you the whole 20 years as well. One thing that I would add is that we are now offering customized tabletop exercises to the communities in Region 3. And most of the communities have chosen to do an active shooter in a school scenario. So far we've done them in Enfield, Summers, Canton, and Suffield, but I would offer it to anybody in this room if you are interested in one of those. We've hired Glenn Buonaducci, who's the former commander of the Crest Emergency Services Team in South Windsor, who conducts these along with us. And they are very beneficial. Just a couple quick notes. So tomorrow's meeting, which you all are invited to, or if you'd like to send somebody, if your town isn't sending somebody, we will have Special Agent Molly Real from the U.S. Department of Homeland Security. And she's going to go over their Internet Crimes Against Children's Task Force and how she can help each of your communities or work with you on that. The final comment I would add is that I am right now trying to work with Max Schachter, who runs Safe Schools for Alex. His son Alex was killed in the Parkland shootings. We are looking to bring him up here in May for a presentation and hoping to work with Dr. Grossman's group, obviously, and then Demis as well to put together a presentation in May. So
Thank you, Cheryl. We greatly appreciate your work as well. So any questions that board members may have for Dr. Grossman or Cheryl? Trying to see if any raised hands online. Oh, is it Mayor?
Mike McCool.
Yes, Mike, go ahead. Mr. McHugh.
I couldn't find the raised hand thing. I'm sorry. Mike McCool, Willington. Thank you for the presentation. Quick question, and I think it's maybe not direct for today, but I wanted to put it out with this group and to Dr. Grossman, at least for some consideration. Because I come into public service through the fire side, and I've run fire safety programs for some large institutions, I have just sort of by natural evolution been starting to gather up with a few different people in the industry to talk a little bit more about taking the fire safety component of school safety to a couple new places, and particularly one area being addressing the challenges of the evacuation drills for special needs classrooms, behavior classrooms, things like that. And starting to talk with some local fire marshals and all that about what different school experiences are, and the challenge of, in the end, making sure that the educational environment and the fire safety people in the community are preparing the individuals that go through school for, the real world as we talk about it. After all, that's the idea, is right, to educate and move on to the next part of your life. And so I just wanted to kind of put it out there that it's starting to be more and more of a topic. I've had some coordination with the state fire marshal's office and with the fire marshal from the Department of Developmental Services. So certainly willing as a sidebar to get input from people on that, and just wanted people to know it's going to be a little more of a conversation to see how we can improve those programs, and most specifically, reducing the amount of pre-evacuation of special need populations because they're not getting the exposure to the what could be a real world safety threat. That's it.
Yeah. So Mike, thanks for asking that good question. It's actually a conversation that we've had in the capital region regarding the security plans. When Bill Turley was with us, that was one of the conversations that we had, because I believe there was an annex, or there is currently an annex on special populations with safety drills. And what I can say is we've had and we continue to have some fire leaders, fire chiefs, fire marshals that have attended our meetings. But I think it's a good opportunity, Mike, for us to circle back at that question. And Cheryl, if you could just remind me tomorrow that we'll actually bring that up, exactly what Mike just mentioned, and gauge that and see. Tomorrow's our last meeting for the year, but gauge that from one of our first discussions that we come back in the fall. I value that comment that you said there, Mike.
Thank you. And I'll just close that with saying, because we recognize this is multidiscipline, one of the people I'm working with is a board certified behavior analyst who works with special needs populations and understands from the sort of academic and developmental and behavioral side what the challenges are. So we're trying to look at it from more than just our point of view of fire safety professionals.
Mike, can you give that contact to Cheryl? And Cheryl, that may be someone that we look at for a possible speaker next year.
I can communicate with Cheryl offline.
That'd be great. Thank you for sharing that. I'm always looking for ideas at the table, so that's great.
Thank you for indulging me.
I see
One more question. Lisa, I saw your hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to note that 3 of the CROG member towns are actually part of DEMIS 4, Coventry, Mansfield, and Willington. But through DEMIS 4, we've had similar tabletop exercises and information flow. So just wanted to take note of that, including things like the blue envelope and yellow envelope projects that connect to the special needs populations.
And that's great. We've had your superintendent in Coventry has attended our region, our capital region meetings before. That's great. Thank you for sharing that, Lisa.
Thank you for raising that, Lisa. And Mike, thanks for your good question. Dr. Grossman, thank you so much. Again, we greatly appreciate your leadership over many years here in our region, and we'll be happy to ask you back in the future.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
Very good. So now very, very pleased to welcome the Commissioner of our State Department of Transportation, Garrett Ucalito. Commissioner Ucalito has visited us before, and I know he's very good at going out and meeting with all the councils and governments and DOs across the state. So Commissioner, thank you so much for coming.
Yeah.
I know you've got a lot of good news to share and maybe some political realities as well.
Yeah, so I guess before I start, quick question, is there any press on the meeting?
Not that I'm aware
believe
of.
so.
Okay. Find my remarks up. So one, thanks for the opportunity to come talk. I don't have a slide deck or anything, just a quick run through a few points, and then happy to talk through any concerns or questions you members have. But one, want to thank CROG for the partnership in delivering our transportation programs across the state. We can't do it without our MPO partners. It's critical to be able to deliver on the federal aid program. We are making significant progress here in Connecticut, addressing our aging backlog of infrastructure needs. Connecticut built a lot of infrastructure back in the 30s. We started picking up 40s, and then really exploded in the 50s and 60s. Our interstate highway system, the state secondary road system, and so all of that system is now aging out, eligible for Social Security, and it's all in need of repair. And unlike other parts of the country, which are really focused on expansion, because their population is exploding. You think Texas, Arizona, Florida, They are really hyper-focused on expanding assets, building new highways, the Greenfields project. Here in Connecticut, we really need to focus on addressing the deficiencies in what we have already, right-sizing it and making the repairs to reduce long-term maintenance costs. So we are seeing a lot of progress on that front. But the hardest part is still to come with some of our major, what I'll call mega projects on the horizon. We see the positive benefit or positive progress so far, looking at bridges. Right now, we have 5,400 bridges that are inspected by CONDOT. First Selectman Morrison knows well our bridge conditions, but about 4,006 of them are owned by CONDOT. The rest are owned by local governments or tribal entities or other special entities. So in 2012, 10% of our bridges were in poor condition. Of those 5,400 bridges, last year only 3.8% were in poor condition. So we've made a lot of progress there. We're no longer facing a federal penalty for bridge conditions. But based on the inflation that we've seen in the highway construction industry, which is around over 54% in the past 3 years, our current projections for investment levels show that we will begin to take the wrong direction on bridge condition, both for structure as well as for bridge deck, as well as for pavement condition on our roadways. So that's something that we are trying to grapple with when we use our asset management approach to be able to recommend investments in our infrastructure. Our capital plan that was just released, our 5-year capital plan, is for over $15 billion programmed over a 5-year period. It would be our highest expenditure level ever. In actually last year, in 2025, calendar 25, we actually expended $2.5 billion, which is actual payments to contractors, not just programming it, saying we're going to do the work, but actual payments to contractors. In 2029, we're projecting around a $3 billion expenditure payment to contractors for work completed. And, you know, having come from budget world, question, okay, well, inflation, that means obviously we're going to spend more. But so I sent the team back to look at other metrics we could use. So we started pulling labor data. So we pulled the labor data, and Department of Labor only goes back 15 years. But in 2024, we had the highest level of construction employment on the highway side in 15 years. So yes, costs are up, but we're employing more people out there building our roads and bridges than ever before on record, which is a good thing. Unfortunately, the key thing for all of this is going to be federal funding. So the surface transportation reauthorization is up. It expires September 30th of this year. Most people know as IIJA, Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, where they took the federal surface transportation bill that we all are used to every 5 or 4 years, and then they tacked on a whole bunch of other stuff on top. Well, the transportation piece of it is expiring on September 30th. There's no clear path forward yet on what the next version is going to be. We had hoped there'd be a Senate and a House bill introduced by now. The House keeps reassuring us that they will introduce their bill in the spring. So it's spring now, so hopefully we see that soon. Senate, they had been expecting to do something in the spring. Both chambers were doing the bipartisan basis. At this point, that bipartisan cooperation on the Senate side has backed away a little bit over frustrations over permitting reform and impacts on wind projects. Senator Whitehouse from Rhode Island is the ranking member on the Environment and Public Works Committee. He feels that if you can't trust a deal, investments in infrastructure move forward and then get the rug pulled out from underneath them when they're at the 93% completion, like our wind projects were. He doesn't feel like he gives us good to negotiate bad faith like that. So we'll see what happens on the Senate side. Either way, I expect there's going to be a continued resolution for federal bills, whether that means they do it in a lame duck session in November or December, or they punt it to the next Congress, which is potentially becoming more likely. Connecticut, we have no one on any of the committees of cognizance, so we're in a very unique disadvantaged situation. I think we are one of the only states that has no one on Senate UPW, Senate Banking, Senate Commerce, House T&I, Transportation Infrastructure. So it's a little unique for us here. Whereas in the past, we had one of the highest ranking members on UPW and the highest members on Senate Banking. And we used to have a member on House T&I. So we'll have to channel a lot of our focus through our senior members of our delegation who simply have input of ranking members and chairs of the committees. The big focus on federal funding is going to be formula funding. We need to make sure the formula funding does not go backwards from where we are in this 5-year bill that we are in now. We had 5.38 billion for Connecticut in formula funds. I fully expect them to eliminate some of the programs, such as the NEVI program, the electric vehicle infrastructure program. I don't expect the Republicans to want to continue that. Our hope is, okay, if they eliminate that, pull the money back into a general program, such as carbon reduction or CMAQ, congestion mitigation, air quality funds. Either way, we don't want to go backwards. We want the same level of funding adjusted for inflation. That's been our message. And then the other key message is we need to make sure that it's a multimodal program. We need to make sure it has transit and passenger rail. Connecticut's needs on the passenger rail side are enormous and outstrip our needs on the highway side. And so if we don't have passenger rail funding in the next federal bill, what will we have to starve in our capital program to fund the must-do projects on the passenger rail side, such as some movable rail bridges on the New Haven line, which were built in the 1890s, which are on the verge of failure. And we have to do those bridges. It's not a question as to whether we do it, it's how will we pay for it. So that's really our big push with our delegation and with the U.S. Department of Transportation today is advocating for a multimodal bill with passenger rail funding and not going backwards on the funding. I will say the big thing for us is going to be looking at how does Connecticut match all these federal funds moving forward? Special Transportation Fund is solvent for probably another year and a half. And then it will be below the red line, where we won't be able to meet current needs of appropriations to fund the Department of Transportation and Department of Motor Vehicles, as well as the capital needs. So our entire capital program is paid for out of bonds. And those bonds have covenants attached to them where you need, for all of our debt payments, this year is $1 billion in debt payments made by the treasurer to cover bonds, debt service. You have to have double the revenue. So as our debt payments grow, the amount of revenues we need also grow. So that is becoming a huge issue for us in Connecticut. At the same time as our debt payments are growing, costs to operate our public transportation system is growing exponentially. When you look at my operating budget for this year, appropriated budget from the General Assembly this year is $1 billion. 2/3 of that is to pay for bus and rail service in Connecticut. And then about 20-something% is for staff by agency, and the rest is for salt and utilities. So it's, our cost to pay for rail service in Connecticut, in 2019, it was about $200 million a year. Now it's approaching $400 million a year. The cost to provide bus service in Connecticut back in 2019 was below $200 million a year. Now we're approaching $400 million a year. So we have been using COVID, ARPA, and CRISA, and CARES Act funds to bridge the gap between what we're appropriated and what we are able to pay out. Those COVID funds will expire next year. We'll draw them down completely. So we'll be asking the Connecticut General Assembly to make up the difference. So that's going to be a big ask on the state side. So not only do we need money to pay the capital program, we need money to pay for public transportation services in the state. Those are the big drivers for the state budget side of the STF. So other than that, though, we have large projects on the horizon. Biggest one of which is here in the capital region, which is Greater Hartford Mobility Program. The 84 viaduct has to come down. one way or the other. And so we think we have the best solution to that. And while we're doing that, also address the infantry in 91 and address other mobility needs in the region. We think it will be a game changer for Connecticut. It's a 20-year project essentially, but started the process, started the preliminary environmental permitting stage for the first component of which is building a second bridge across the Connecticut River, or bridge over the Connecticut River to go from Route 2 across the Connecticut River to connect with 91. That would essentially become the new 84 once 84 is realigned on the Hartford side. So that's progressing. That's going to be the first component to move of the major projects. But at the same time, we have a whole bunch of associated projects that are associated with it. So that's the outlook for us. We're in a good place. The fiscal red alert is beginning to blink a little bit. But Connecticut's been in this situation before. We find solutions in the past. In the past, we're kind of similar to what the federal government has done. If you pay attention to what's happened in Washington, D.C., the last time they raised the gas tax was 1993. The Highway Trust Fund, which is similar to our Special Transportation Fund, they've basically taken money out of the general fund and put it into the Federal Highway Trust Fund in the past 20 years. That's what Connecticut has done as well. We lowered the gas tax 14 cents back in 2000, 2001. It used to be 39 cents. Now it's 25. And since then, we've taken money out of the general fund and put it into the transportation fund. So now we have all of the total revenue coming into the special transportation fund. 40% of it is the general sales and use tax that used to go into the general. So that was a decision made by previous governors as well as the General Assembly. It's kept our transportation system growing, paying for more things. But that is something, we're going to face the same decision point that the members of Congress are going to face. So it's something that we'll collectively all have to address in the next 1.5 to 2 years. So happy to answer questions on any of that. Anything going on in our region? I know there's probably some hot issues that you want to discuss. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you.
And I just do want to point out too, though, we are reorganizing our agency a little bit, restructuring we did complete a strategic plan. We built a new Office of Government Affairs to deal with Pam Zucato oversees Office of Government Affairs. We have Legislative Affairs reporting to her. We have municipal Director of Municipal Affairs is Carlo Leone. And then we also have an Office of Federal Affairs, which is Jennifer Arianti. But then we also have our MPO coordination team, which is still in our Bureau of Planning, Technology, and Innovation, led by Mike Salter. Jen here also is the liaison here to Prague. So they are always available to Prague at any time. They're in constant communication with Prague, but also for any of the municipal CEOs, Carlo Leone is available as well, and as Pam. So I've answered any questions.
Thank you, Commissioner.
So, Commissioner, thank you for being here and for your great presentation. I just have a comment, which is I really appreciate you and your staff and all the partnership you've done with Weathersfield. I'll particularly note that we're in the process of installing the red light and speed cameras right now as we speak, and by early April, they will be up. And that will literally save lives for us. We've had 3 fatalities in the last 18 months on the Southstein Highway. And the commissioner and his staff have been absolutely tremendous in helping us implement that. So just want to say a big thank you to you, and please pass it on to your staff. Weathersfield appreciates it, and we're almost fully operational with the cameras. So thank you.
Yeah, happy to help on that. We've done a lot of research on that and worked on the legislation to authorize that. I will flag, just for everyone's awareness, if those are something you have in your community or are interested in having in your community, there are 3 different bills moving through the General Assembly this year dealing with automated license plate readers, which is different from speed and red light cameras. However, the legislation captures the safety devices in with those definitions. We are trying to work with both chambers of the General Assembly to explain the difference and the fact that speed and red light camera authorizing statute has very rigid protections for data already in place. So we're hopeful they'll be able to make some changes and not capture speed and red light cameras in their new definitions, because it could it could lead to the shutting down of a large number of municipal programs.
Thank you. Open it up for more questions. Does anybody have a question?
I have a comment, raising my hand here, Wendy, next to just first slide, and
No.
Simsbury just wants to pass along, thank you from our DPW, Tom Roy and team. For he is helping us with a lot of the road safety issues, crosswalks and sidewalks, especially, the Elm Street 189, the extension of the East Streamway from Bloomfield, you guys were really critical for that. So, just wants
Thank you, Wendy. Further questions? So,
Mr. Stefano, any you'd like to raise?
I already prepped and warned the commissioner that I would be breaking this up and not, I appreciate the context, just like as we at the town level are preparing our budgets and dealing with some pretty significant headwinds in terms of financial conditions. So I know asking about any expansion of services, we just talked about that the focus is really making sure that we're maintaining our outdated deferred maintenance structure. That being said, CROG has made it a legislative priority to try and push the idea of the expansion of bus rapid transit CT fast track east. I know that there are some bills that have gone before the transportation committee that talk about a connection with East Hartford, Manchester, and Vernon. Obviously, as the town manager of Manchester, I'm very biased towards a potential CT fast track stop in downtown Manchester. We're doing a lot of investment right now with a brand new library, with a streetscape plan, which we have union investment funding money for, trying to make it multi-use, multimodal. A lot of things that Connecticut has not done well over the past 50, 75 years. I also want to note that a lot of our member towns are interested in a connection that goes through 44 towards Yukon. And I think we are missing a link between the eastern part of our state that is not seen as much public investment and struggles with development because of lack of services, also includes water and sewer. But linking Yukon to Hartford, I think would be a huge economic development driver, and transportation is a big challenge there. So I know you got a lot on your plate, but just want to.
No, I know about this issue. So 10 years ago, we did a study, like so we instituted the 913 bus because of that study, right? Which already connects out to Yukon. So Yukon students today have the 913 City Transit bus. It's hourly service, could definitely be better headways. But at least there is that connection. It is heavily utilized. I appreciate the effort to do like legislative push for fast track extension, but it has to start here at the MPO. It can't start in the legislature. It has to start with a planning study. It has to start with what's the purpose and need of the project. So like right now in New Haven, we are trying to develop a CIG capital investment grant project for bus rapid transit in the greater New Haven region. That's been a decade's worth of planning work, right? And so we're finally at the point where it's in preliminary design, getting to 30%. Then we're going to go for a CIG grant. That's where the idea of sending fast track east could go, is start with a planning study. There's lots of different ideas of where does CROG want it to go? Where do the towns want it to go? That planning study can look at origin and destination today, like use actual origin and destination data. Where are people coming from? Where are they going? Where are the employment hubs? Where are they traveling in their vehicles today? And then determine, because you can't build a BRT system, a real BRT system with infrastructure and dedicated lanes without federal funds, without the CIG grant. We did new starts for fast track. So that's where we need to start, is start with that planning study. Ultimately, what we've shown in the Greater Hartford Mobility Program is once we can get 84 shifted, we want to, what we envision is extending fast track from its current terminus at Union Station, extend it through downtown Hartford, extend it across the Buckley Bridge, which would be, it wouldn't be 84 anymore, it'd be a local road with dedicated bus lanes, and then extending it. So that's the ultimate goal, but we need to do that transit planning study first. In the interim, CT Transit has looked at, based on the interest from Manchester, we're investing, which is not downtown, but the Upland Park and Ride capital project's gonna start this year to make that a much more frequent bus hub, essentially, where there can be buses essentially departing from the Park and Ride to downtown Hartford every 10 minutes. And there's gonna be, will be essentially be like a fast track light terminal, the larger bus shelters, and more accessible to users as well, level boarding. And they're going to be rerouting some of the bus routes to better serve that. So what I told Representative Rojas is that you will aim to set up a presentation for CT Transit, my team and his office and the interested communities to talk about here's where CT Transit sees the ability to make adjustments to the schedule, cancel some routes, combine some routes, have more frequent headways without increasing the cost. Because the capital project is one side of the equation. The big issue on transit is the cost to operate the system. Because CT Transit is entirely borne by the state appropriations. It's a huge weight around the state budget because STF is a separate fund, but it's all one statewide spending cap. So for instance, there's legislative pressures this year to free bus fares, bus fare discounts, add more service, transit districts in other parts of the state. Greater Bridgeport Transit has a $9 million deficiency for next year, so they want a $9 million increase in their operating funds. The other transit districts are facing the same. We just signed a new contract with the CT Transit union for the management company did that's increasing costs to operate by over $10 million a year. So it's huge fiscal pressure there. So that's where we need to look at how can we use the resources we have to better serve the community's changes. Not to mention the CT Transit Hartford bus facility is maxed out. We have nowhere else to park buses. So we're trying to find a satellite location to build new bus hub. So to park buses. So yes, we're committed to looking east of the river and better use the resources we have. But I would encourage CROG to work with us through the Great Hartford Mobility Program, look at what does a fast track BRT system east of the river look like. Let's start that planning process now. So we can start planning for potential CIG grant in the future.
That's a very helpful answer. And I'll just say, like, no one from Prague was involved in kind of putting the language that's in that bird bill. Because I think a lot of us saw it, thought, well, this should probably be planned out a little more. So it's good for that. The only follow-up question I have is on funding. I know right now is not a good time to be contemplating this, but I mean, given your revenue challenges that, and we're all facing, especially with construction writ large and inflation there, is there any talk of raising the gas tax?
I don't think anyone in the Capitol wants to talk about revenue system. Next year, they're going to talk about something.
Right. It's just doing the math, I mean, the covenants of the bonding alone, and some of the numbers you were saying.
We're trying to be creative with, there's federal loan tools available, which have a lower interest rate than bonds and have longer repayment terms. So if I'm going to build a bridge over the Housatonic River connecting for the railroad, it's going to last 100 years. Should I really be doing it with a 20-year bond? I don't know.
We have time for one more question. Is anybody online or
Are we going to talk to them?
No. Really great.
I have a comment.
John?
I just, as chair of the Transportation Committee, I would just like to, on their behalf, express our appreciation to the commissioner for the his guidance in his staff now having very candid and productive conversations with the MPO as we move through a variety of projects. And also, I think with all the commissioners that I have dealt with over the years, he has demonstrated, as he has shown today, his knowledge and ability to both deal with the long-range comprehensive issues dealing with transportation, as well as getting down to the nitty-gritty of a particular bus route number. And I think that that is greatly appreciated by all of us folks in the MPO. And so I thank the commissioner for the guidance he's giving to his staff, for the staff that they work with us, and I wish him continued success.
Thanks, John. And I do think, the agency, I appreciate the kind words, just don't trust me with any engineering. I'm not gonna design words for you, but, I think, the fact that our leadership team at the agency now, former public works officials in the department in senior roles, and Mark Carlino, who is our engineering administrator, but also we want to, I'll always be honest with anyone who's asking for something. I'll always give people the answer, even if they don't like the answer. But I'm going to explain why the answer is what it is. We always want to get to yes in some fashion when we're being approached. And sometimes the answers can be a no, but we can do this instead. I've told the team, you never start with no, you never start with just a flat out no. Let's figure out how we can reach a compromise on something that meets in the middle if we can't do what's being asked, and what can we do instead? And so that's really what we're trying to express down throughout the entire agency.
I think it's a very healthy and productive approach, and we appreciate it.
Thank you, John. Yeah.
And Commissioner, I also want to thank you for coming in today. We really enjoyed the good working relationship we have with the members of your team. Appreciate your support on any number of projects, whether it's the Hartford Line, CT Fast Track, as we just talked about. We're champions of the Greater Hartford Mobility Program, as you know, so look forward to continuing to do good work together in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner and staff. Thank you. Appreciate you guys being here. Move on in our agenda.
Yes, if we could, we do have some action items. If folk could hang on a little bit, we greatly appreciate it. And Mr. Chairman, if we could go back to the approval of minutes, number 3, and then we'll go to 7, 8, and 9.
Thank you. Do we have a motion for approval of minutes?
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Second.
We have a second. John, I heard your name. So all in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, passes. I think we're on to number 7.
Number 7, yeah.
Action item, resolution to endorse regional performance incentive. So,
Yeah.
You don't need, but we can call on Ms. Yoder, who's going to
Pauline?
present this item.
So NECOG is applying for an RPIP grant, but it involves Mansfield hosting, sharing with Chaplin. And so as our policy board, you've seen a lot of these, but this one, we won't be administering, but NECOG will be administering. And, but we have to endorse it in order for them to be able to apply.
Thank you, Pauline. Is there any questions for Pauline?
On behalf of the town of Mansfield, I just want to say thank you in advance for your support.
Thank you. Love Mansfield.
We're all about shared services in Mansfield.
We have a, ready to make a motion?
Motion approved.
Yeah, do I have a second?
Steve Stefan.
Second.
Brian Foley.
It's moved in second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Passes. Thank you. I think we're on to action item 8, the tip moments. Is that Rob or John?
John, are you in a position to take care of the MPO items, or would you like Rob to do that?
I can do the tip items. I'll ask Rob to do the other item, but on the TIP items, there are 2. One in actually for Condot that's listed in Newington, but that's because where they are. To do regarding the highway safety, consistent with the state the state program, and the second's in Talon, which is a bridge improvement over Route 195 at I-84. Transportation Committee has vetted both of these, has unanimously approved them and recommended the same to the Policy Board acting as the MPO, and I would so move their approval.
Thank you, John. It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. Any discussion before we vote? Okay, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Passes. Thank you. Then Rob, are you next?
Yeah.
Thank you, Rob. Thanks, John.
Yeah, item 9 is informational item only. This is a mandated portion of our metropolitan our MPO. To be an MPO, we have to maintain a continuous congestion management process. How we comply with that is by continually monitoring congestion in the region, and every 5 years we produce a report. So we just finished a report. This our last report was pre-COVID, 2019. And then this report looks at 2024 traffic conditions. So in the report, we do look at the interim in between 19 and 24 and what happened to traffic and congestion. The report is online, so it's there's a link in the memo where you can find it. But I'll just give you a quick summary of what we found. Obviously, during COVID, vehicle miles traveled dropped significantly in the first year, but by 2024, it had rebounded to almost pretty much exactly the same level it was in 2019. Although we rebounded to 100% of our travel from pre-pandemic, delay, as we measured delay as time lost on the roadway going to a destination by either traveling too slow or stopped, has decreased. And that's for 2 reasons. For one, the peak has spread out. We no longer have such a sharp peak hour in the AM and PM for the work we travel. Secondly, Mondays and Fridays, a lot of work from home. So those days have a lot less congestion on it. And thirdly, in our region, we had a completion of a major project on I-91. The exit 29 from I-91 north onto the Charter Oak Bridge. If you recall, that was consistently recurring congestion there. And that has been eliminated by the project being completed. So we have one of our four or five legs going into Hartford, congestion completely eliminated. So on the freeways, actually congestion our delay has reduced by 34% since 2019. On our arterials, we measured that delay is reducing by 15%. And so congestion wise, we are better off than we were before. The report is online, and so anybody can take a look at the trends and if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Thank you very much, Rob. Are there any questions on the congestion management process?
Just a quick question.
Yeah.
Well, how about the volumes on the interstate, Rob? I missed that. Did that decline as well, or?
It's returned exactly by different measures. It's just percentages off, either up or down. So I'm gonna call it the same.
Just for
In total. The peak hour is less.
Anything else? Any other questions for Rob? Thank you, Rob. Moving right along to our legislative update. Donna, you on?
I'm here. Sorry, I'm not with you all in person. Apologies. They are in active session today, so I'm here at the Capitol building. But just wanted to kind of give you a level setting on where things stand as of today in the legislature. So as of today, the majority of the committees have concluded their work. The money committees are still in active session, and they have the appropriations committee specifically has had all of their subcommittees report in. So we should expect a budget next week because their deadline is the first full week of April. And the finance committee is also submitting their package next week, so we should have some information on that as well. Because again, their deadline is similarly the first full week of April. So we'll have some more details on that that side of the things next week or later next week. On the topic of municipal and education funding, so a couple of press conferences have recently happened over the last week. Both the House Democratic and Senate Democratic caucuses that have put on press conferences specifically related to education funding, and they each have, you know, two different ways to fund education or solutions in this particular session to fund education. From the House Democrats, we saw that they are really looking to I guess entitled to investing in our schools and towns. So it's a more of a one-time property stabilization grant format rather than funding into the existing formula. This really, the reasoning is because they just don't feel like they have the capacity this year to really conquer, I suppose, if you will, the formula. There are things that they'd like to do, or at least review in the interim. And so their feeling was that they'd like to potentially put in about 100 to 170 million in additional municipal support, hopefully aimed at offsetting these rising costs in education specifically. There is expected to be a modest increase in the ECS between 2 and 5%, but that I think is less certain than the 100 to 170 million dollar grant that I just outlined. The Senate also has a bill out there, Senate Bill 7, which is seeking to increase the foundation grant from 11,525 to 15,500 by 2030. This would be just a phased increase over those several years, beginning in year 2027. And then the indexing, which has been discussed for many proposals attached to the formula, wouldn't start until that 2030 mark. So really, we would be getting to a little under where the funding per pupil is being recommended to be today, but pushing that out until 2030 and then allowing for the indexing to happen. So that's really, you know, where the Senate is on education. Then moving into Senator Fonfara, who is the Senate co-chair of the Finance Committee, he on an annual basis has one large proposal that he puts out later in the committee process, and he's done that recently. It's Senate Bill 511, and he is entitling this the Municipal Growth Dividend Proposal, which essentially is seeking to incent towns and cities to take on economic development projects. And so essentially he is creating a municipally attributable revenue, which is a metric that ties the state tax revenues directly to the local economic activity. There's other details around it, but essentially he's looking to establish a statewide municipal growth account, which then provides annual growth dividends to municipalities at 0.5% of their locally generated state tax revenue growth. The requirement would be to have those funds deposited into the Municipal Revenue Stabilization Fund with some flexibilities for services and other mill rate relief. So that is actually being heard this Friday before the Finance, Revenue and Bonding Committee. And again, it's Senate Bill 511. So just in the interest of time and other sort of things to think about. So just again, next week with the appropriations and the finance packages being released, we'll have some more, insights into what the legislature feels the budget should look like, or at least the budget adjustments should look like in this year. And then also just a opportunity for me and my work to really flush out the bills that are related to our legislative agenda and what those bills are that still exist out there, and some strategies around what we should be doing in the interim between now and then when they're in real active session days, which is happening today and tomorrow, and then they'll start to have more regular session days as April approaches. So I'll have just some more details for you on the status of those bills, and then those bills likely will have what they call file copies, which will give like a great summary and then a fiscal note, and then just a good review of what the municipal impacts will be for those particular pieces of legislation. And some, not all bills are obviously related to our agenda, but we do follow all the bills that, impact the region and then generally municipalities as it relates to our agenda, but then more broadly than that, just municipalities. Happy to take any questions. I know I run through that really quick, but I'm looking at the time and feel like I don't want to take up too much of it.
Donna, thank you. Thank you for all your hard work. Thank you for advocacy on behalf of all of us. Does anybody have a question before we move on? Or comment? Thank you, Donna. Seeing none, I think we'll move on. Staff reports, Matt?
Yeah, thank you so much, Mayor. Thank you, Donna. I know we also have Matt Reich from Congressman Courtney's office, and Matt, you did send in an update as well, correct?
Correct. So, if you would like me to make a quick presentation, certainly can, but just in the interest of time, I'm happy to defer when my memo for the month is shared out.
Okay, that'd be great, Matt. Thank you. So I am gonna move on because we are gonna wrap up for 1:30 today. So I'm gonna cut back on my report significantly. You can find our full staff report though with the packet. And I'll also ask Pauline or Doreen to insert it into the chat here. So to lead off, very pleased to welcome the newest member of our team, Savannah Nicole Villalba, or SN, as she prefers to be called, as our principal housing planner. And SN is the first person to hold this title at CROG. And we're utilizing some of the funds that we're receiving from the state to support her position. SN, I was going to say she's a rising star, but actually she's a real all-star now in the planning field. And I'm going to turn to Caitlin Palmer to add a few words.
Sure. So for those of you who may actually know SN, quite a few people do. It's always impressive to find out how many people know SN already. She comes to us with over 7 years of experience at the regional as well as the local municipal level. Most recently from NVCOG to one of our sister COGs, Naugatuck Valley. So it's also just really great that we've managed to add to the team that already has the COG experience, understands our role, as well as being familiar providing assistance to our municipalities. I've worked with her, I not really worked with her prior to last special session. We worked closely as well as many other COGs on the summary document related to the special session Public Act 25-1. So through that process and just in other experiences with her, I know that she is incredibly knowledgeable, as Matt said, very well respected among the planning community across the state of Connecticut. So I'm very excited for her to join the team. I'm very excited for her to be leading our housing growth planning program that we'll be undertaking, as well as other housing efforts. And I'm also just really excited for all of you to get to know her and work with her over the course of her time with us at CROG and find out for yourself just how great she is. That's one. No,
Would you like to say hello?
It's wonderful to meet you all. I'm looking forward to getting to work with you in providing assistance and serving communities on housing and policy.
Excellent. Very good. All right, why don't we move on? Next item I want to touch on our annual meeting. Our annual meeting is scheduled this year on June 3rd, and we're going back east of the river. It will be a lunchtime meeting. We're going to meet at the UConn Alumni Center. And very pleased that we're able to welcome Joe D'Ambrosia, or Joe D, the legendary sportscaster and voice of the UConn Huskies, as our keynote speaker. I want to thank Cheryl for the connection there. So we'll be sending out invitations for that meeting soon, and I hope many of you can come. We'll have a very good annual meeting there. And then also in connection to the annual meeting, we're bringing back our regional awards program. Those of you who've been around CROG for a little while, you'll recall, we used to have an awards program. We're bringing it back with a few different twists. And we're going to have awards in 2 categories. First, what we call a beacon of the region. Think about an individual who's contributed significantly to CROG or to the region. We want to be able to recognize those folks. And then secondly, we're going to have an award for regional excellence. And that will be to acknowledge our towns that are doing really good work, working together. So looking forward to bringing back the annual awards program as part of our annual meeting. There are a whole host of funding opportunities you see listed in the staff report here, such as the congressionally directed spending that our senators are sponsoring. We've got some brownfields funding as well. We're anticipating that the popular Safe Streets for All program under the BIL, that we'll see another announcement this spring. I want to thank Elizabeth Sanderson for her continued good work in supporting all these programs and point out our funding newsletter that Elizabeth prepares each and every month. So check that out. Please feel free to reach out to her at any point with your questions about funding opportunities. Just a couple of other things I'd like to add here. We've recently presented information and findings from a key study we've conducted. This relates to stormwater management. We did a study assessing the feasibility of standing up a regional stormwater authority or utility here in our region. It is feasible, so we've been presenting our findings to our committees. We'll be bringing that to the policy board in the near future as well. We would also like the opportunity to present this report with towns individually, those of you who are contending with stormwater issues. And just a couple of other things I'd like to add, and then I want to briefly acknowledge Robin Nichols and then Peter Souza. Under the meeting and events section, our legislative committee will be meeting tomorrow. Legislative committee meets tomorrow at noon. This will be a virtual meeting. Hopefully, our legislative committee members, the vast majority of you will be able to attend. Other policy board members are welcome to attend as well. And then our next policy board meeting will be held on April 22nd. It will be a busy day because we're also going to have the visioning session that day for the board. So we're going to hold the visioning session from 9 a.m. to about 11:45, and then we'll roll into the policy board meeting. And I hope many of you can attend this visioning session because we really want to hear, what are your priorities? What do you as a board want to focus on over the next couple of years? We'll also give you a good update on where things stand with our existing strategic plan, which we call our strategic playbook. Robin, would you like to briefly add a few comments regarding the good work of our Solid Waste Authority? And then we're going to ask Mr. Souza to give a report from Municipal Services Committee.
Okay, thank you, Matt, and thank you for acknowledging me. In the interest of time, I'm going to make it fast. Our Regional Waste Authority, the Central Connecticut Solid Waste Authority, recently completed our planning study with the help of our consultants, H2M and FHI. The regional study and planning report has provided us a implementation pathway on how we will be moving forward with our waste authority over the next short-term period. One of those priorities will be in-state MSW capacity and disposal. We also are looking at providing additional programs and services specifically related to organics and food waste. So more to come on that. And our information will be available online. The planning study is available online as well. If anyone else is interested in more information or would like to be a member, please reach out to me.
Thank you so much, Rob. Peter, longtime chair of our Municipal Services Committee.
I love that introduction.
You're doing a great job.
Just a few things that we talked about the last meeting. We went in detail over the stormwater utility study. And so as Matt said, we'd love to be able to get that out to all the town engineers and other bodies that in your communities. But just a reminder, the state's tire recycling ERP program and the gas and propane cylinder recycling program. So if your public works folks, if your transfer stations, just know those are new rules of recycling and that are coming down the line. I think tires might be in place right now.
Yeah.
So next meeting is April 7th, and so appreciate you having your staff, you or your staff members attend. It'll be online noontime on 7th of April.
Peter. And then lastly, Mayor, under correspondence and handouts, we've got an invite to our annual meeting to poll for the strategic visioning session. The conflict of interest form, if you haven't filled it out and you're a board member, we really need you to do that. Very handy, easy to use link right here. We've got the letters of support that we've issued on behalf of grant applications from our towns, as well as links to our newsletter and our funding newsletter. And we have no other business from staff, Mayor, today.
Thank you, Matt. I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you, everyone.
Hi. Thank you all
Thank you.
so much for long meeting. Really appreciate it.
Quarantine free.